Mark, let's talk about, in case there's anyone listening who or watching that has an LLC that didn't take the S corp election when they set up the entity. You mentioned it was retroactive. Can you explain to them what that process looks like? And
Yeah,
and
so
also, guys, if you have an LLC that's approaching this income level, if you're coming up on that 160,000, pay attention, because this is where you're going to start to benefit from this. If you're not, if you're nowhere close to that, you won't necessarily see the benefit that the one with specific benefit we've been discussing until you get to that level.
yeah, so and I just use this as an example to illustrate the value here. And right now, our rule of thumb here, well, because the S corp does take additional work, and let's say you just had a spike in income and you don't know what your income is going to be. We really only want to recommend S corps when we're going to see an ROI where the savings are going to be worth our fees and advisory. But let's say you have an LLC and you're looking at $100,000 of profit, and it's December of 2023. Now they say you have to do this within the first 3.5 months to get your S corp tax election, and if you just read that, you give up, then you may say, dang it, we're not going to get the S corp tax election this year, we waited too long. But you can also do a late election, and you can do that election even after the year ends. So you can still treat all of your activity as though it was in this S corporation for the entire year, even after the year ends. Now, you also, to protect yourself and show that it was legitimate, you want to be performing as though it is an S corp before the year ends, and try to set up payroll. A lot of people in their first year will give themselves a 1099 for reasonable comp. It's not the best practice, but because it takes time to set up payroll, some people will issue themselves a 1099 for the reasonable comp if they fail to set up all the systems. But the point I want to make here is that and this is the way that we advise our clients who are just starting to reach that threshold where it might make sense. You don't have to make that S corp election right away if you're not certain if it's going to be worth the energy and the time to maintain it, or if it's going to create tax savings. In fact, a premature S corporation might cost you more in taxes under certain circumstances because you lose your QBI deduction. So with clients where we're not sure if it makes sense just yet because the year hasn't really played out, we're still waiting to see how the dust settles. Just make sure that income is going through the LLC. You collaborate with your tax advisor and monitor your profitability and potential self-employment tax liabilities. And then when you know it's right, and you know that you're expected to see consistent profit and growth in profit in future years, then you can elect that S corporation.
Yep. Just my advice from personal experience, guys, go ahead and learn the payroll. It's not that difficult. Go ahead and 1099 yourself. If you intend to make significant money through this entity, go ahead and set it up early and have it in QuickBooks. Because when you start doing well, I mean, all it takes is one big deal to knock you into a whole new territory from a tax standpoint. So I would recommend sooner than later. It's one of those momentum moves, right? Like you want to set the intention that this thing is going to be deep into six figures, so I need to prepare accordingly. But if you're just getting started and you realistically think you'll do one or two deals this year, like in that entity, then look at what Mark just talked about. Like I've actually had to do this with one to retroactively take the election because I set up a new entity. I sent the email to my accountant, told him to take care of it like he had in the past. He forgot. And when we got ready to file, he hadn't prepared a return for that S corp. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, it's an LLC, it's a pass-through. So I had to learn that the hard way. It wasn't difficult. I think it took him 8 hours on the phone with the IRS or something, but I didn't have to do anything. It was his mistake. But I would, like, if you intend to be in the real estate business and to be into six figures, I would encourage you to go ahead and start thinking this way. So think, all right, I am, and even if you're the only W-2, like, or 1099, like I pay myself a W-2 and do payroll. But I would recommend it's a foundational mindset for growth, right? Like if you're setting this up to behave like a 6-figure entity, then it's more likely to actually be a 6-figure entity.